Welcome to this special edition of Discovery News. In the next hour, we'll look at some of the most important stories and discoveries from 1997. Some of these breakthroughs have already changed our lives. The effects of others may not be felt for some time. These reports came from the far reaches of the galaxy and from all corners of the globe. But perhaps the greatest achievement, and the most controversial, began in a laboratory. The creation of a sheep named Dolly, the first adult mammal to be successfully cloned. George Strait has this remarkable story.
When her unprecedented birth was announced in February, Dolly caught almost everyone by surprise, including scientists.
People expected that maybe at some time it would happen, but maybe we've been a little bit quicker than they expected.
Dolly is remarkable because she is a clone, the first exact genetic copy of an adult mammal. Scientists had cloned baby frogs, even mice before, but never a full-grown sheep. The trick was helping an adult cell act young again.
The key to this experiment was to induce the genetic information of a very specialized cell from an adult, in this case a mammary gland cell, to go back through development to produce an entire new animal.
To make Dolly, Dr. Ian Wilmot and his Scottish colleagues began with a 6-year-old sheep. They took a single cell from her mammary gland, everything, especially the nucleus, the cell's command center containing all the genes. Then they took an egg from a second sheep, removed its nucleus, and replaced it with the cell from that first sheep. The egg and its new nucleus fused together, turning it into an embryo, but one with all the genetic characteristics of the first sheep and none of the second. In essence, a carbon copy of that 6-year-old sheep. Finally, the embryo was placed in a third animal where it developed, and Dolly was born. It took almost 300 tries to create her.
Perhaps almost we should be surprised, not that things go wrong, but that it works at all, because this is a very hit-and-miss empirical sort of approach.
Other cloning breakthroughs followed. In Oregon, the first cloned monkeys. In Wisconsin, the first cow cloned from embryonic stem cells. And then, from the same laboratory that created Dolly, came Polly, a clone that carries a human gene in every one of her cells, the same gene missing in many hemophiliacs, which prevents their blood from clotting. Hemophiliacs don't make the clotting protein, but Polly may, in her milk.
You'd extract the protein that you want from the milk, purify it to a very, very high degree, extraordinarily pure product, and then you'd inject it into the patient.
Polly is exactly what the Scottish researchers were after. An animal with genes that could be used to help study and potentially fight human disease.
The reason why we started this technique was not so much to be able to make copies of animals, but whilst we are carrying out this procedure, to use it in a slightly different way to introduce precise genetic changes.
Genetic changes to create pigs with organs that might one day be transplanted into humans. Designing animal clones for our own medical purposes crosses an ethical line for many people, but it's not nearly as controversial as another potential application of cloning, making exact copies of human beings.
Cloning is objectionable to folks because they're afraid of designer families made up of copies.
Thank you very much. The U.S. Congress held tense hearings to address whether people should one day be cloned. One congressman said they should.
Human cloning will take place, and it'll take place in my lifetime. And I don't fear it at all.
But Dolly's creator disagreed.
I personally have still not heard a potential use of this technique to produce a new person that I would find ethically acceptable. And on that basis, I hope that you're wrong and that we do not see cloning in our lifetime.
Scientists say human cloning is years away, if it ever happens. Meanwhile, they will keep a close eye on Dolly, watching her grow and making sure cloning has produced a healthy, normal animal. George Strait, ABC News, Roslyn, Scotland.
Besides cloning, there were other miracles of life this year sparked by medicine. The most notable, the McCoy babies, the only living septuplets in the world. And as Jackie Judd reports, they're just part of a baby boom created